Okay, we're going to cover a little bit of Walacor from a bird's eye view in this episode. Let's get started. Here is roughly the structure of how a normal API may interact with a database, right? Or how a client may interact with a server. On the left here, we have a client, which is going to be, think of your laptop, and your laptop is going to interact with an API. And the API is going to do something. It's going to say, hey, post this user's data to the database. This is a pretty traditional way of interacting with a client and server. Walacor successfully does that by interacting directly with the data. And it does this in a very secure way with a bunch of other features, audit logs, encrypting the data. It's very, very secure. Now, I've brought in a data piece and a schema. Now, the schema is just going to outline the data for us. Those familiar with typed languages, this is going to be very, very straightforward. Think of that like a blueprint to a home. An example for this schema, if the data on the left is the user's name and the date of birth, we would have a key called user's name and maybe date of birth. And this would be our schema on the right, and this would be our data on the left. My name is Ryan, and my date of birth is April 3rd, 1995. This would be my data. But the schema doesn't change. Maybe your data is something else. I'll select a random name, maybe Tim, and your birthday may be something different. But the schema doesn't change. We just want to make sure that the data is congruent with the schema. So this is what Walacor does. It takes the data and it validates the data against the schema. And if it is successful, it'll put the data into the database. And it can do this as many times as need be. And the best part about Walacor is if there's any updates to either of these data from Ryan or Tim, let's say if I put my birth year wrong and it's 1996, and maybe I spelled my first name incorrectly and it was Ryan, Walacor will automatically keep an audit log of each change of data. And it never deletes data. So you have access to all of this data. It's really powerful for compliance, audit logs, and more. It also encrypts the data. And that's what makes Walacor so powerful.